Episode 180 von win2day, Hockey O'Clock. Mike Halmo, Stürmer, HCB Südtirol, Alperia.
Was there ever a hit or a check that you regretted?
Yeah, I would say a few. I mean, even the last game at the end of the year, it definitely, it was one of the hardest times ever, standing. I didn't want to go out into the rink because, it was full and I didn't even know where I was going to stand, and I didn't even want to see my teammates. I felt bad just, for the 5-minute penalty too, right? These guys fight all year for us and for trying to win a championship, and, to put them on the penalty kill for 5 minutes is not really fair. And, they, typical, Bolzano character, they fought back in that game and were able to crawl back, and that's why I love these guys. And they come in after the game, and I think it was the intermission, and just said, hey, don't worry about it, we got you, and that means a lot to me, obviously.
win2day, Hockey O'Clock.
In diesem Augenblick wird jetzt richtig hitzig. Und die Scheibe kullert über die Linie. Mittendrin statt nur dabei. Das ist unglaublich, was die hier zelebrieren. Nice move, another nice move. Oh, it's goal! Oh, what a goal! It doesn't get any better than this.
I cannot tell you how much I've been looking forward to having this conversation. He is one of the very interesting guys the win2day Ice Hockey League can call its own. He has been a mainstay for Bolzano. He has been one of the heavy, if not the heaviest hitter in the league. He's also an incredibly skilled guy. And I'm going to find that out because I've only heard of it, a great teammate, an incredibly funny person, and basically the whole package. I've really been looking forward to having you on. It's, of course, Mike Halmo from Bolzano. Mike, so happy that you joined the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Mike, we're recording this conversation in the middle of preseason after a 10-0 exhibition game victory by the Foxes against Innsbruck. You didn't play in that game. We'll get to that a little bit later. On paper, this Bolzano squad looks incredible. What's your feeling as regards the team that's slowly but steadily coming together under the lead of Glenn Henlon this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think everyone's outlook this year is very positive. We had a training camp in the mountains in the Dolomites in Corvara, and I think we got along from the first day. The new guys fit right in. Frankie and Frigo, the guys who've been here for a long time, have really built the culture in Bolzano of, working hard and coming together also as a team and having fun too, right? And it's a big part of hockey to find that balance. And I think here in Bolzano, they've done a really good job of bringing guys along and showing the way here. And I think it's going to be an exciting year for the squad. We're very stacked up front. We've got some great D and obviously two great hardworking goalies. So, we're excited for the year. I know Glenn and the staff is too. And, it's a long year and obviously a lot of things happen, but it's something we look forward to.
You're heading into your 6th year in Bolzano. Granted, after your first year, you went on a little hiatus and then returned. But it's become fairly uncommon that an import player returns to the Ice Hockey League again and again. And if you look at Bolzano, it's happening more often than not. Dustin Gaisley has been one of the mainstays on the team. Scotty Valentine is back for a 3rd year. Brad McClure is back for a third year. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think just kind of what I talked about before is the culture that we've kind of created here. Guys love to play here. We have a good mix, I think, between fun and hard work, and obviously we've been a winning team the last little bit, and also just outside of the rink. There's so much to do here. Doesn't matter what season it is you can always find something to do, and I think a lot of us, we enjoy the outdoors as well, and what Bolzano offers us. Obviously, the management and everything has been good here for people to stick around, and we've created just a great connection between all of our teammates, and it's. I know a lot of people say it, but we've become a family these last few years, and we're chasing down a goal, obviously, and I don't think anyone really wants to leave until that goal's finished.
But then again, there are always new faces, as with every other league squad that need to be kind of integrated. And you already talked about the Italian core led by Daniel Frank and Luca Frigo, but also the import player core, where you, of course, are part of. Is it a gimme to assume that you and Dustin Gazey are big parts too in quote unquote onboarding players to the team, to the city, to the region?
Yeah, for sure. I think I hear from a lot of guys before they sign, because obviously I've been there for a while, and they want to know, what it's like there, and why I've been there so long. So we have some good conversations with some of the guys coming in, and we kind of let them know how it is here, and obviously we have some good imports this year, and we were pretty lucky and fortunate to get these guys, and now we're looking forward for the regular season.
I'll get to you and everything you're about in a bit, but one last question when just looking at the roster, and I know we're recording this at the beginning of September. I know it will take a little more time until the real games are being played, actually 2 weeks as of this recording, and I know it's a long season, but just looking at the sheer firepower, especially offensively, this team has. I mean, you brought on Matt Bradley, who's been a 30 goal scorer in the league with Vienna. You brought on Braden Christopher, who was a 50-point scorer with Innsbruck a couple years ago. You brought on Adam Aluka, who scored 70 points 2 years ago for Innsbruck. Is this, again, on paper, and I know the real games haven't started yet, but is this the most firepower Bolzano's ever had while you were there?
Yeah, up front, we got an army up front for sure. It's pretty cool to watch. I think last night we obviously won 10-0, and it wasn't really about all the goals for us. I would say I think last weekend we didn't have our best 2 games. It was our first 2 games of the year, obviously, but we didn't like how we played, and I think just the response in general, the way we played. Obviously, we scored a lot of goals last night, but it was just the way we played. A lot hungrier and played with a lot more heart. And it's great to have so much offensive power, but it's how you use it, right? And you still have to do the right things, and that's a big part of Glennie's the way Glennie preaches, and that's what we did last night. And I think if we can play the right way and do the right things, that we're going to score a lot of goals.
And just for all the fans out there who haven't maybe followed the off-season Bolzano has had as closely as others, there's Simon Burg, former Innsbruck player on D. Cole Holtz is back, one of the cornerstones of your finals run 2 years ago. There's the usual suspects on defense. There's still Sam Harvey, who got you into a Game 7 in the semis against Salzburg last year and Game 7 in the finals 2 years ago. Again, on paper, looks really loaded. Really curious to find out what Bolzano will be all about this upcoming campaign. As much as the preparation goes, and I want to take you back to a year ago. Bolzano played a loaded schedule in exhibition. Bolzano played in the Champions Hockey League, and you never really got it going under the new regime that was in place at that time of the year. Niklas Sundblad only lasted, I think, 4 games until he was shown the door. What kind of difference does it make for the team to not have this incredibly loaded schedule and a quote unquote normal preseason?
Yeah, last year was a lot at the start of the year. I think coming off that Game 7 loss and then going right in the next season to a lot of games and a heavy schedule and obviously a new strategies and new ways of doing things. It was quite different for some guys. It obviously took us a while, obviously also too, just as a team to kind of mix in together. Last year I would say maybe we had some of the best characters, like nice people in the dressing room, and it took us like I would say a couple of months to just to kind of get to know each other well and start fighting for each other. And that's, I think, when Bolzano does its best, when everyone's caring for each other and everyone's fighting for each other. And we found that later in that year, obviously Glennie came in and we felt a lot more comfortable with him, just the way his style is, and we were used to it before. So yeah, now this year it was, we started a little bit later, and we don't have a game every other day. So it's been a lot easier, I think, for the guys to prepare and kind of get comfortable and get to know each other better. So yeah, obviously we still have some games here ahead. We got a big weekend here, 2 games. I think we play Saturday, Sunday. So it's been good. I think now, we overcame it's the jitters the first couple games, and you kind of feeling comfortable. And I think last night was a good turnaround for us, and hopefully we can just keep going on to the regular season now.
We're going to revert back and forth a little bit here, as last year's is still relatively fresh in the collective memory of Bolzano fans. And I vividly remember getting to Bolzano, I think, a day or 2 after Glenn Henlon had arrived for his second stint with the team. I was lucky enough to conduct an interview here with him too on win2day Hockey O'Clock, and he was fairly open about his summer and why it wasn't the right call to return to Bolzano immediately, but that he was lucky enough to get the job opportunity at a later stage where he had already dealt with some family matters. So I was just wondering what kinds of buttons or different buttons was Glenn Henlon pushing than Niklas Sundblad, and why were you able to turn everything around under his tutelage?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, strategy-wise, he's very smart, but I think the thing that motivates the players is just he's a very real person, right? Like, he's very personal. He knows his players. He knows how his players work, but also, like, just when he talks, and sometimes he comes in the intermission and he'll say a speech or something, and it's I've had coaches for the last 8-10 years in pro where the speeches kind of wear off, and you just kind of get numb to a speech. But when Glenn comes in, sometimes his voice is a little bit trembly, like he when he's talking, he means what he's saying, and you can really feel that from him. And there's been a couple of speeches in the last couple of years where, like, you're so motivated, and like sometimes I leave the dressing room for intermission like feeling like, wow, like I haven't felt like that in a long time. And you can just see that he cares, right? Like there's no faking behind it. Like it's real, and yeah, it's incredible. And it really, you really want to go out there and play, and you're really motivated. And yeah, I think that can be shared throughout the whole team.
I do share that sentiment, and I don't talk about that probably very often, but he's one of the very genuine coaches I've met over the past couple of years. He's incredibly funny. He's very intelligent and seems like a really good guy, especially when you listen to the players and everybody that was kind of touched by him, coached by him. Everybody seems to be raving about him. Former players, former players on his team. It's just an interesting guy, and I guess Bolzano should be very happy to have him back. You talked about the coaches that you've had in your pro career, especially over the last decade. You're heading into 1.5 decades of pro hockey. So that's an incredibly long and successful time that you've already spent playing the game. But when preparing for this conversation, I kind of went back a little bit and on an Ontario Hockey League prospect blog. I found a description of the player Mike Halmo. So almost 17, 18, 19 years later, I want to read this to you and then see how much of that still holds up and where your game and everything else might have evolved. It said on that blog, Halmo has always been one of the most feared hitters in the league. He's also been the type of player who constantly walks the line between clean and dirty, has seen his share of suspensions, and driven opposing fans to the point of anger. But if he's on your team, you love him. How does that description hold up in September of 2024?
It's a good question. I think, growing up, it was always my style. That's how I had fun, and it kind of carried me into pro hockey. I was fortunate to have a coach in the OHL that almost taught me everything about hockey. I went into the OHL knowing absolutely nothing about the right way to play or strategy wise how to play, and I was just a guy in minor hockey that just went around and hit guys and scored the odd goal, and this guy was able to kind of take my game to the next level, and I was able to play pro because of that. And when I went to the New York Islanders system, it was kind of the same way. They that's exactly how they wanted me to play, and I kind of developed my game like that throughout. And now I don't really know any way else to play. It's just kind of synced in my game, I guess. And like if I were to go out there and not try to play my physical or on the line kind of game, I wouldn't be the player I am or as effective as I am. I think like playing hard and physical and kind of being that edgy player goes along also with scoring goals and being offensive too. I think it goes hand in hand. It's just that's how I'm on my game. And hopefully this 2024 season is the same description as you just read.
The coach you were referring to is obviously Mark Reeds. He coached you in juniors for 3 years, and you had a brief stint with Greg Ireland, whom you'd see again a couple of years later in the pros. But when you talk about he taught you playing the game the right way, and I know it more often than not maybe sounds cliche to a lot of listeners, but this podcast is also here to kind of dissect cliches and show them that not even one grain of truth, but the grains of truth, they're usually in it. How did he teach you? What did he show you when it came to playing the game the right way?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just so many things. He first of all, he was a guy playing in the NHL, but he was a third, fourth liner, and he had to fight his way there and fight for a career. And just such a intelligent and smart coach. Even things just like picking pucks off the wall or using the net, and it's just so many little things that like when I was young and watching him and listening to him teach, like it would have never occurred to me some of the stuff he taught. And he had sometimes a funny way of getting through to guys. He would embarrass you. He would skate circles around you in practice and blow the whistle about 100 times if you screwed up in practice. And it would be funny as long as you weren't the guy that day. I was the guy a couple times, and I remember it like yesterday. But also it's how you grow as a person, and it's how you grow as a player too. It's there's different ways of learning. I'm sure it's not like that as much anymore, but sometimes you need it, right? You need to go through a little bit of a humbling experience, and he was great for that. And every year I was with him, I got so much better. Honestly, I call the OHL like my own sound career, like a university of hockey, because every day was just, I felt like I was learning so much. And, obviously, like I would like to say the effort and the will was there, and he was able to just kind of to guide me through it. And then obviously I got Greg Ireland there in the my last year, and he played me. I think would play like 30 minutes a game, and just kind of catapulted me into a professional career.
It's just so interesting who leads you on which paths and where and how you eventually end up playing pro hockey. We might be digging a little deeper, but when we're talking about paths that we're on, obviously we're meeting a lot of people in, I tend to call it planet, or on planet hockey, as I tend to call it. And one of those people that you and I mutually would call a friend is your former captain, Martin Pfanner. And I always like it when great players talk about other great players. And of course, in preparations of this talk, I got in touch with Anton and asked him, hey, Anton, is there anything the world needs to know about Mike Halmo? And he said, there are lots of things. And he came back with a story that I want to play to you, that I want to listen in with you, and then want to talk about you with. This is Martin Pfanner on the great Mike Halmo.
Hello, everyone. Martin, good job for finally getting Halms on the podcast. I think he has a lot of good stories and some valuable content to share with everyone here. You asked me to tell a story about Halms, and I'm not a great storyteller, but let me do some background first. Mike was someone who integrated very quickly, not just into the Bolzano hockey family when he first got here, but obviously also into the society around Eppan, where most of the players live. He was, for example, helping the tenants where he lived with the farm, with harvesting grapes, riding the tractor. He was making friends outside of hockey, and not just sitting around playing video games all day. And pretty much a great character guy that most of the hockey fans in Austria couldn't probably imagine, because they know him for his goals, for his physical style of play. But behind all of that is actually a smart person who is very valuable in the locker room. Actually, one of my favorite teammates of all time. He would be going around the locker room, listening everywhere, making jokes, chirping guys, and a great teammate on and off the ice. So here's the story. 4 years ago, for Secret Santa, where basically every player picks a number out of a hat and gets a funny present for the other player. Then at Christmas Day, we usually put them all in a shopping cart, and one by one, each player picks his present. And Halms was obviously last that year because his present wouldn't fit in the shopping cart. Yeah. Now you have to remember that he was helping on the farm, and sometimes as a funny word around the guys, we would say the name Stollo, which is actually someone who helps in the barn and gets his hands dirty. And one of the younger players he was really close with always called him Stollo. So he got him this blue skirt that farmers always wear with the name Halmo on it and number 1 Stollo, and a really funny red hat. So he put those on first, and then it was time for the real gift. It was outside of the locker room, and we heard some funny noises. And our trainer, he actually brought it in, and it was a real pig on a leash. Not a small pig, a cute one. It was actually a big one. And so Halms, that was his present. He got it, and he was walking around the locker room with it. Number 1 Stollo, Mike Halms. Pretty funny story, and actually our trainer said he never saw anything like it. His favorite Secret Santa gift of all time. And I agree, this was one of the funniest moments we had together. And then obviously we shared many more moments together, winning a championship, nights out, having fun on the bus, on the road trips. Therefore, I wish you all the best for the season with the Foxes. Best of luck. I'll be watching you guys, and good luck.
A tremendous story. And what Anton also did, he sent along a picture that's obviously proof of the story. And I wanted to ask you the question first. Is the world ready to see the picture, or shall I hold it back? Because in conjunction with the appearance of this podcast, I might be enticed to post a photo to obviously generate more clicks and listens and whatnot. But you'd have to agree to that first.
Yeah, of course. I know the picture. It's a great picture. So please do.
The story is incredible. When I saw a pig, and I know the Bolzano locker rooms, and you and a pig, I was like, what is this? And the story about it reached me a little later. So when everything was put in context by Anton, it kind of made sense, but it's still one of the weirder occurrences I've ever been part of. How do you look back on that day and that story?
Yeah, no, the gift was good, but just the delivery of it. So Simon Pitchler is the guy who got it for me, and we were really close. We drove all the time together, and we spent a lot of time together. And so in Bolzano, we picked the Secret Santa numbers pretty early, so guys have a lot of time to think and prepare. And every year it's a pretty good time. It's guys put a lot of time into it, and they care, and it makes it a great day. But he had bought the pig probably a month ago and was feeding it and taking care of it. And I had obviously no idea. And then I was the last guy to go, and there was no gift there, right? So I was thinking, it's happened before where the numbers got screwed up and, I didn't get a gift. And I was like, oh, here we go again, but the whole gang was just kind of sitting together, smirking, laughing. And so you knew something was up. I started reading the note and getting all these kind of side gifts. And then all of a sudden you can just hear this pig squealing. And I still don't really know what's going on. I look behind, and our trainer, Ryan, he has this big pig on a rope, on a leash. And I was not embarrassed, but just in shock. And you could tell everyone knew what was going on except me. And it was definitely a Secret Santa to remember, and a great job all around by Simon to make that all happen. I think he drove 2 hours to go get it and put it in a crate and bring it. So yeah, it was a funny time.
And he took care of it for a month. I wouldn't be able to take care of a pig for probably a day, not even a week, and he did it for a month. So hats off on that. Anton, in his story, called you a Stoller, as it's obviously the case in South Tyrol. I'd probably translate it to farmhand or just farm laborer, I guess. How did you become a Stoller? Why did you help out on the farm around you?
Yeah, I guess just the experience, right? Where we live, there's vineyards everywhere and apple orchards, and for me, it's kind of new. Where I come from a city, and it's flat, and you come here and there's mountains everywhere and vineyards, and obviously a lot of people are invested in those, and your neighbor, or a lot of people you talk to are they either own a vineyard or work for it or something like that. And I just thought it'd be something cool and something cool to learn, and obviously and help people out too at the same time. And it's cool that the culture here with the wine and the grapes, and also the apples too. It's a pretty unique place, and I just for me it was fun. I think now every year we help our the one tenants out and to pick the grapes and for a day, and then we have a meal after, and it's a pretty cool experience, and it's a good time to bond as well. And it's obviously now it's an ongoing joke, and I accept it and I like it, but it's cool to learn something new as well, right? And and that's kind of how I live life.
Before we get back to serious hockey talk. What has happened to the pig? Is it still around, or has it already become some kind of bacon?
Actually, that's what I named the pig. I named it Specky. Yeah. It did go to pig heaven. The plan was to actually it. I wonder if there's a picture of how big it was, because it got even, like, I think it was, I can't remember the weight, but it was absolutely massive. The friend who got it to me took it to his uncles who owns a farm and took care of him there, but it was massive. And the plan was to have a grill at the end of the year, but that was COVID year, so that we couldn't really get together in numbers outside the rink, unfortunately. So the uncle took it with the rest of them and made some speck out of it later, I think the next year or so.
Just out of curiosity, because your pronunciation of Specky and Speck was immaculate. You're living in a bilingual region, and I'm always impressed when people in South Tyrol seamlessly switch from English to German to Italian, and some of them are from a valley where they have even another language like Ladinic or Ladinish. Just incredibly impressive. But have you ever thought about adding one of the two languages to your repertoire, or is it as with nowadays all the other league cities where English gets you through everywhere?
Yeah, so when I first came here, I started to try to learn the German dialect almost right away. It took me a long time. I still not great, but I know enough to get around and to talk to people. Sometimes I have to ask them to repeat it a few times, but I would say, like, I feel comfortable enough to talk to people and engage with conversations in the dialect. I told my Italian friends, like my best friend Johnny Valini and also Luca Frigo, that I would learn Italian this year, which I've started, and it's just being around it for 6 or 7 years. You can kind of pick it up, and it's not, you're not kind of really starting from ground zero. Also, Migloranzi helps me a lot too. He doesn't really like to speak English, so in the end that helps, and it's a good way to learn, and he knows that as well. But the good thing about this area is, like, I'm not too shy to speak like German to someone, because there's so many languages going around, and like not everyone is 100% in every language. So if you make a mistake, it's not only me who's making mistakes around here too, right? So if I speak in German, they think, oh, maybe he's just an Italian guy that doesn't know German that well, or it's pretty easy going with the languages here. So no, but every day, I want to keep obviously learning the languages here. I think it's, while you're here, you might as well try to pick it up, and it's always around. So English gets you anywhere here too, but I've been here for this is my 6th year now, so it'd be nice to come out with learning a different language or two.
In other words, we could have conducted this interview in German too.
That might be a little bit too schwierig for me.
But it seems as if you're getting there. I want to go back to what Anton said one last time, and the line that kind of struck me, coming from an all-time Bolzano great. He's probably one of my favorite teammates of all time. And knowing Anton and just how great a character he is, he doesn't say that lightly, or because someone wants or needs to hear it. It does come, or knowing him or thinking that I'm knowing him, it does come from his heart. And I always wonder, how does it make you feel when you hear something like this from a player this great?
Yeah, I mean, what a great feeling, right? I mean, if you look at Anton's career and just who he is as a person, I had the awesome opportunity to sit by him in the locker room, and a guy who comes in every day, works hard, works his bag off, and also is a great player, right? Like, you watch him play, just super smart, and like sometimes the things he did, I would just think to myself, like, where did he learn that? Like, how did he learn to do that? And I obviously would have loved to play with him a few more years, but he's also a smart guy. Like, he transitioned right into another career, and just you know, he's got 3 kids now, and it's great. Sometimes I run into him in F1 where we live, and always smiling and seems happy with everything. And obviously, it was a pleasure to win a championship with him. And obviously, I got to play with his brother too. Been over to his families for a lunch or two, and just a great family in general. You can obviously tell why the kids are so good. They have great parents, and it's very meaningful coming from a guy like that, and also great looking guy. I think everyone knows that around here too. So
just imagine being the one on TV standing next to Anton. Doesn't matter how good looking you are, you're automatically the uglier one. So I mean, you're preaching to the choir, as I've had the good fortune, or as I've been the lucky bastard who enjoyed doing commentary next to Anton. And I've never seen anyone who's a natural as he was. He was basically thrown into the booth and basically thrown into a TV studio, and he was good from the get-go. Normally it takes you some time to understand the TV business and how certain things are working. Anton didn't need that. So on and off the ice, quite literally a natural, and really happy to still have him on our TV team. Maybe if your German keeps improving, we'll have a reunion in the TV booth or in the commentary booth. Something that might entice you for a career after your career.
Yeah, could be. If it's with Anton and you, and maybe we could get something going.
We'll try to set some things up, but first of all, we hope that you'll have a long and successful playing career. And I want to get back to the playing career and obviously that description that I read out a little earlier, where it said you constantly walk the line between clean and dirty. And I described you as a heavy hitter. And naturally, in a contact sport like hockey, there's a fine line between a good hit and a hit that maybe took it a little too far. And you've been on both sides of that line, but maybe let's talk about the evolution of you becoming a heavy hitter first. How did it come all about? At what point did you get the feeling, I know how to hit?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think ever since day one of playing hockey, it's kind of how it was. Just like the timing and knowing when the guy's got to cut in the middle, and it was like probably the number one strength, maybe I guess you could say, like in hockey growing up. I had in minor hockey, I played with a guy named Mike Halmo, who he played for Washington a little bit. He was one of my best friends growing up. We played hockey every year together. We were born, 10 days apart, and we were very close. And he, although we were the same age, he was kind of the guide for me. We both played super hard, and he was heavier, like one of the heavier guys growing up, and we had some fun together, and we were just, I don't know, like he just kind of brought that animal out of me and showed me that way. I remember like we would play like summer hockey tournaments, and we go for the handshake at the end of the game, and he'd be pissed at someone. He'd tell me, "Hey, be ready, like something's gonna happen here. I'm like, Mike, like, come on, the game's over. It's like, no, be ready. So it just kind of developed from there, and going back to Mike Halmo, like he was a big part of my career as well. He was obviously always a step ahead of me. When I was playing junior B, he was in the OHL, and then obviously he was in the NHL before me, and played like a great career in the American League also, and in the NHL. And he'd always come to check in on me, and if we played against each other, he'd tell me things. And obviously he was a big part of my career as well. But I would say like playing with him at the start just got in minor hockey just kind of sparked that physicality out of me, and it kind of just kept going into pro, obviously. And I think obviously playing in that time back in North America, where physicality was a little bit more lenient and a little bit more different. Obviously, it's changed. Hockey in general's changed, and I've had to adapt, or at least try to adapt. And sometimes obviously it's over the line, and something there's been obviously some times that I've regretted and I'm not happy and we're proud of. But I mean, you just got to keep going and and learn from it.
Let's maybe stick with the regret and then turn it into something positive, and maybe as you've already alluded to how you adapted. Was there ever a hit or a check that you regretted?
Yeah, I would say a few. I mean, even last year, the last game at the end of the year, it definitely, like, it was one of the hardest times ever. Like, standing, I didn't want to go out into the rink because it was full, and I didn't even know where I was going to stand, and I didn't even want to see my teammates. Like, I felt bad, just for the 5-minute penalty too, right? Like, these guys fight all year for us and for trying to win a championship, and to put them on the penalty kill for 5 minutes is not really fair. And they, typical Balzano character, they fought back in that game and were able to crawl back. And that's why I love these guys. And they come in after the game, and I think it was the intermission, and just said, hey, like, don't worry about it, we got you, and that means a lot to me, obviously. But like that would be one for sure that I regret. And now this year, I can't play the first 3 games, which sucks. And obviously I want to be out with my teammates.
We're obviously talking about the hit against Jay Ganaway. It's one of a couple of hits that netted you a suspension in the win2day Ice Hockey League. And when we're talking about hits, what constitutes for you a good, maybe even a great hit? And where's that fine line between a great clean hit and maybe a dirty, reckless hit? How do you try to define and walk that line?
Well, I don't even know. To be honest, I try not. I try not to hit in general anymore. Like, unless they see you coming and they're ready for it, then then it's, for me, I say, okay, it's okay. But then at that point, when they see you coming and you're a little bit delayed, I guess, nothing really comes of it anyways. So I guess it still happens, and sometimes I maybe get frustrated, I guess you could say. But I think now it's better just to use your stick and angle them off. And there's times obviously where you're gonna hit the guy, but it's just so risky nowadays. Whether the guy moves or puts his head down or reaches out for a puck. It's like, at the end of the day, like, is it worth suspension or not, just to make like a one hit? Does it make a big difference in the game? That's kind of what you have to tell yourself now these days. And I want to play games, and obviously don't want to take penalties. And obviously it happens, and it can happen, but you just have to be a little bit more smart about it.
The evolution of the game of hockey is so interesting. I've talked to numerous people, and this discussion kind of always flares up when there are suspensions being handed out or no suspensions for a big hit. And this doesn't only come from old timers, but also from people who started playing the sport maybe 10, 15 years ago. A lot of them said there's this kind of illness or malady going around that people, for whatever reason, start ducking towards the boards when a hit is imminent, which makes them even more brutal than initially intended. And then that a lot of people don't know how to take a hit anymore and take a check. Has that indeed changed over the course of the years? How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I think growing up in my era and past eras, you put yourself in spots where, if you're going to get hit, you're going to be okay, right? And I think now that the game's so fast, and there's not as much physicality even growing up, that guys get more comfortable full playing, and they're not expected to get hit in some moments, right? And that just carries on through to now, I guess. And like, if you look at some of the guys like my age, or the guys who grew up, like, look how many times how hard they've been hit. Like, there's obviously both sides to it, right? Like, one, giving a hit, like, are you in the right position to give a hit? And as the receiver, like, is he, making the best options to protect himself, right? Like, is he reaching for a puck when a guy's coming to hit him? Is he turning when a guy's coming to hit him? Like, those are, I guess, gray areas of the game, and I think they always will be.
You're not only one who dishes out punishment, to use a figure of speech. It also netted you a handful of suspensions in the win2day Ice Hockey League, just the most recent ones in April of 21, 4 games because of a hit against Ali Vukovic. In January of 2023, 5 games against, or because of a hit against Feavars Nielsen. Then last year, the hit against Genoway, another 3-game suspension. You've been a repeat offender for the Department of Player Safety. So every time it seems when you're raising your pinky finger, people are screaming for a suspension. I want to get to the adaptation process in a bit, but you've also been someone who got a lot of punishment from other players. I at least found 2 instances where you were hit so heavily and badly that it netted other players suspensions. Ryan Stower, I think in American Hockey League, Rafael Rotter in win2day Ice Hockey League, and maybe that's something for a lot of those people who can't take or don't know how to take hits anymore. How do you prepare mentally and physically to take on punishment that others are dishing out?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's part of the game, right? Like, you can get frustrated during the game, or things happen, and you have to learn to deal with it. Sometimes it's hard, obviously, and sometimes things don't go your way, and I've obviously been on the side where I haven't reacted maybe the best I could have, but yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's hockey and it's sport, and things happen, and you have to be able to adjust and learn from it and come out on top. And yeah, going into this year, it's the same mindset I have to have.
Has anyone ever really succeeded in getting under your skin?
Oh, not really. Like, I like when guys, engage. It gets me going, and I think I play better. I also respect it. Like, if there's some good chirps or a guy, trying to like, not just me in general, but like going after guys, like, kind of makes me laugh, or like, I enjoy that part of the game. But really, not, if I could think of, not really. I know, like, going back to my friend Mike Latta, like when we play against each other in like the OHL and stuff, like he would be like, when I played minor hockey, like my mom would sometimes yell at me from the fans, like, Mikey. So like when I would play against Mike, like in warm-ups, or like if he was on the bench during games, he'd be yelling like, Mikey. And like that would probably upset me, frustrate me the most, because he knows exactly what he was doing. And for him, he was playing, like, that time he was playing like first line, and he could kind of do whatever he wanted to do, and I was like that fourth line guy just trying to like break into the league, and guys are asking me like, oh, why does he keep saying that? I'm like, don't worry about it. Don't worry. So yeah, honestly, that got to me a lot, but he knew exactly what he was doing. It's just funny, like, growing up and having that, and having that bond with him as well.
We started the conversation with me reading that OHL prospect blog description. You being a player who constantly walks the line between clean and dirty, heavy hitter, has seen his share of suspensions, driven opposing fans to the point of anger. You said it's probably still true. And then again, we talked about the process of adapting your game to the modern hockey and the modern way of how it's officiated. When did that process start, and where is it right now? Have you fully adapted, and are you pulling back at times now where you wouldn't have, like, 3, 2, 5, 7 years ago?
Yeah, I would say for sure. Like, there's so many times where I'm like, okay, here we go, and then I'm like, like he's not looking, or he's watching his pass, or whatever, and I just kind of back away. I mean, also too, like I'm not as fast as I used to be either, right? So that's another issue as well. Is where you go to hit someone and the puck's gone, or you're not exactly in the right time frame to hit the person. So that's another thing of it too, obviously. But yeah, like it's definitely obviously a different game now, and which is fine. Like obviously hockey's grown and it's gotten a lot better all over the world, I think, and I think they've done a great job of advertising hockey and developing and making it more popular, and that's obviously a good thing, right? So I think hockey's going in a great direction. You can even see it here in South Tyrol and like different places in Europe now. So it's great for hockey.
We also started out by talking about the exhibition game against Innsbruck. Obviously, a couple more to follow. You were held out that game also, Anthony Salinitri. So that again goes into the firepower that's still on the bench and will eventually be added to the squad too. When can Bolzano fans expect you back on the ice, and what's currently bugging you?
Yeah, so I suffered an injury last year. I took some time off and then came back, I guess, maybe a little bit too early. And yeah, all through near the end of the season and playoffs, it was just lingering, and it didn't get better. So I just kind of, it got worse during playoffs, obviously, and then it took all summer to heal, and it's getting better slowly. Still now, like I've just started getting on the ice and skating. The physio and the trainer, the athletic trainer here they've done a great job with me. It's been a joy. Some days I go to the rink not mentally at my best, and Daniel Peruzzo, he's our new our workout trainer, and he's done just a phenomenal job with me. He truly cares and believes, and on those days you go to the rink where you're not mentally at your best, right? Like you're not very optimistic about what's to come, and he's there to make sure everything's okay and to push you as well. And that's obviously been big for me. I've been doing treatment and stuff. They've been taking a good care of me since I got here, and which goes a long way. And you see your team practicing, and you want to be out there with them. It's tough to be patient. Enrico Migliaranzi, he's kind of going through the same thing as me right now. So we've been spending some time together, and he motivates me as well. You go to the gym and this guy's working his bag off to come back. I mean, he's the same age as me, and he went through surgery this summer, and you can tell he wants to come back at his age. And it's pretty motivating to see a guy show up every day and work hard like that just to come back and be with the group we have, right? So for timeline, yeah, that's something I just been kind of taking day to day. I'm not really too sure when I'll come back. I hope soon. Obviously, with the 3-game suspension, it still gives me a little bit of time. But yeah, I would say, I mean, take it day by day, week by week, and see. But I hope so. I hope soon.
Before we hit the record button for this conversation, we talked briefly off the records, and you said you've been blessed not having had a serious injury before, or a long-term injury, or an injury with maybe an uncertain window of return. How has this process, and mind you, you're heading into your age 34 season, you're 33 right now, you won't be turning 34 until May next year. But how has this process been mentally for you at this later stage of your career, having to deal with an injury of this kind for the very first time?
Yeah, it's I guess you don't really understand it until you've been through it. You see guys who've gone through it or talk about it, and I guess you don't really understand it until you've been through it yourself. It's very challenging, right? Like one, you have to stay patient, and two, you have to stay positive. And there's times this summer where I get up and I go to do my my rehab workouts or something, and I can feel something, and like there's a couple times this summer where I went down to the basement just to do my like regular rehab stuff, and you're not feeling that good that day, and you feel something in your body that's not right, and like there was a couple times this year where I just stopped doing it. I just go up and say that's enough for today. Like, well, I don't even know what's to come. Like, why even bother doing this? And then there's the next day you feel good and you're like super motivated. So it's such a roller coaster of thoughts of emotions, and it's tough because mentally I still feel good. I still want to play. Like I said before, we have a goal that we want to accomplish. This team, the guys that have been here and been working the last few years. So you want to be a part of that, and I want to be a part of that, and I want to finish my career on a high note. And these guys deserve a championship. They've put the work in, and they're great guys. And yeah, that's the goal, and that's what kind of keeps me driven to getting healthy again and coming back and winning with these guys.
Obviously, a lot of people in Bolzano really pulling for you, hoping to see you on the ice sooner rather than later. But please get back to 100% first. And when you're at that 100%, eventually you'll see Salzburg again. And that's the question to round out this conversation. You got so close 2 years ago when you got Salzburg and forced them into a Game 7 in the finals. You forced them into a Game 7 in the semis. We're talking about the team that's three-peated and attempting to win the trophy for a fourth consecutive time. You've been so close in beating Salzburg. One might argue one or two puck bounces to go the other way, and Bolzano hoists the trophy 2 years ago, and Bolzano advances to the finals last year. What does it take for Bolzano to get over the Salzburg hump?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Salzburg's a great team, and it's been the games we play against each other. It's been quite a battle, and also what a great thing for this league in hockey. I remember the year we lost to them, and 2 years ago, I guess, in Game 7. And, you'd speak to the fans after, and obviously they were disappointed, but proud of us. And, but they were more just like happy about the level of hockey, right? Like how good those games were and like how intense they were. And I guess when you're playing, you're not really thinking that, right? Like you're just going out there and trying to win a game. But as a viewer's perspective, like, now I go back and think about it, and you're like, wow, those were like, imagine being a fan at those games, like how good that is for the league and the people watching, right? And I think that's really cool for this league and for the viewers too. So in terms of getting over the Salzburg hump, like every game with that, it's an inch of this and a couple bounces, and obviously we're building a team to win a championship, and we're going to face them for sure. And they're a great team. And I think just takes that extra step, whether it's a bounce or, a little bit more detail in practice, or, that coming together. And, obviously we have the pieces to put together a good run this year. And, we've gone through a lot the last 2 years, adversity and ups and downs and, whatever you want to call it. And I just think it's building something to a big story. So I'm excited for the year, and let's see what happens.
I 100% second that sentiment. If there's Salzburg Bolzano Part 3, sign me up for it. It's been tremendous for the sport the past 2 years. If there's a third series you guys would be having with Salzburg, I'm all in for it. But first, you need to get healthy. Wishing you all the best for the recovery process. Looking forward to seeing you back on the ice. Wishing you nothing but the best, and promise that this wasn't the last time that you graced win2day Hockey-Talk with your appearance.
Thank you so much.
win2day Hockey-Talk.
Kurz durchatmen bei diesem Wahnsinn. Und das ging rasend schnell. Der Traum vom Finale ist erfüllt. Mittendrin statt nur dabei. Die Fans stimmungsvoll und hoffnungsfroh. Nice move, another nice move. Oh, it's goal! Oh, what a goal! It doesn't get any better than this.